Hello everyone. In this lecture, I want to talk about how to change a metahuman face in the correct way. This is not going to be a tutorial because making a tutorial on that will be super long and very complicated. But rather, it's showing the workflow for the people who know about CGI. It's not a beginner lecture. It's for the people who know about the CGI and how to do it, showing them the workflow and what is the right way to do it. Anyway, I have seen many people making videos about how to change a metahuman face, and they do it in the wrong way. What they do is actually adding a blend shape on the blend shape on top of the blend shape set, and the new blend shape is responsible for changing the look of the face. It's not a new thing. It's not something that is specific to metahuman, and you could always do that with any character. Like, for example, I have an old project. It is based on the blend shape. The face is completely based on the blend shape. And even I made blend shape for cloth and etc. I'm deleting that new target, and I can always add a target, and it is in editable mode, and I can change the face whatever I want, and the rig is still is working. Everything is working supposedly, but there's a problem, and I'm going to talk about the problem. So this is exactly what they do. They add a blend shape to a face, and let's say, and the way they do that, the way that it is done actually, is through an application called Wrap 3D. And Wrap 3D is an application that retopologize a geometry for you, or a face rather, because you need the same topology but with the new shape to be able to add it as a blend shape. So let's say I have a face that made by Wrap 3D, and I'm going to duplicate this face, unparent it, unlock it, unlock, and let's say this is the face that was made for me with Wrap 3D, and I'm going to give it a funny look. All right, let's say this is the face that was made by Wrap 3D. What they do is simply selecting the face, selecting the geometry, and add a blend shape. And supposedly the rig is supposed to work, but the rig actually is broken. As you can see, when let's have a smile, as you can see, if I add a dimple or a smile, the rig is broken. And this happens for all the rigs. This is not a new thing. This is not specific to metahuman. This is not something that some people just realize that they can do it, or something is unrecognized in the CGI field. But nobody do it for this obvious reason, because the rig is going to break. This is an extreme example, obviously, because nobody looks like that. But even if you slightly change the face 1 centimeter away from the original geometry, you're still experiencing the broken rig, and it may not be obvious at the first glance, but definitely it's there. And the face is not going to look as it should. And the question is, why would you do that? If you are just supposed to make a bad and broken face with bad deformation, why would you do that? Why would you use a metahuman? A metahuman, the greatness of metahuman is that the not only the look of the face, but the formation and the movement of the face is supernatural. Is very, very natural. I mean, not supernatural, but very natural, not supernatural. It is very natural, right? And if you break the face, break the rig, and it looks ugly, you are not doing anything good. You didn't change the face, you just make it ugly. So let's talk about the metahuman structure. I'm going to delete this blend shape. And I'm going to talk about metahuman structure. A metahuman face is a joint-based rig. And this is exactly the reason that you can change the face, but in the right way, not the way that most people do. And this is exactly the same reason that you are able to make different faces while the rig is still working in metahuman creator. Because metahuman creator offset the joints for you. And it makes a file called DNA that dictates the offset of the joints, and even metahuman creator defines the motion range for the joints by the DNA file. But you are not able to change the DNA file in Unreal because it is encrypted. But there are ways that you can make your own blueprint. It is kind of cumbersome, it is kind of time consuming, but that's the only way that you can change a metahuman face. So because this is a joint base rig, also it produces the most natural movement. For example, you will have curve motion on the eyelids and curve motion on the lips and jaw. If it was purely blend shape base, you wouldn't be able to have those curves and it would look unnatural. That's one of the factors that makes metahuman face natural. Let's say I close the eye, you can see the curve animation. See, the eye moves in a natural way. But if it was blend shape, it would from open to close in a linear way. And sometimes the eye would penetrate in the middle of the way, would go out of the eyelid, and you had to add in between blend shape, but you would never be able to produce a natural blink because blend shape is always linear, and even with in between blend shape you would see some weird movement on the eyelid. Anyway, now I'm trying to do the same thing that I did previously with the blend shape way by joints, by offsetting the joints. And by the way, I have a tutorial that I made a couple months ago, and on that tutorial I talk about how you can change a face without needing to change the topology. And people asking, so how can I export this to Unreal? And the answer is you can export it with Alembic. You can't export it as a skeletal mesh, but you can export it as Alembic. And if you are making cinematics, why Alembic should be a problem for you? You can do that. It's not going to be a big file because it's only small geometry, and you should not be worried about the performance because it's not a game, it's a cinematic, right? So you can export it as Alembic to Unreal. And what if you want to be able to use the control rig inside Unreal with a modified face? And this is another story. This is complicated and this is time consuming, and it's not easy as some people pretend to be. So, like the other tutorial, I'm going to add these joints to an animation layer so I'm able to move them. And I'm going to go to world, and let's say I'm trying to make the same look that previously I made. I'm going to hide the joints. And while this character is extremely unusual, but the rig is still working fine. Nothing is broken. Okay, as you can see, the dimple working fine, the smile working fine, and everything. Nothing is broken. And you may ask, okay, what I want an exact shape for my metahuman that I created with Wrap 3D. And at this moment, after moving the joint around to make a similar shape for your target mesh, you can add a blend shape, a corrective blend shape to your mesh. And please note that a corrective blend shape is not supposed to shift the geometry. It's supposed to correct it. For example, you have a shape exactly similar like this, and the corrective blend shape is going to make the 10% remaining work, but the majority of shifting of geometry is on the joints, and you should use the joint movement method for that. So speaking of corrective blend shape, you may also say, even if the ellipse is broken, let's do it again. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to add a target and changing it to have the same funny look. You may say, okay, even if the rig is broken, I have corrective blend shape set and I can do it. If you take a look at the blend shape for metahuman, it comes with almost 700 blend shape for just the face. And it is awesome that you can change every movement, you can correct every movement. For example, let's say you are not happy with the blink of the character. You have corrective blend shape for the blink. And if I apply the blink, you can see here is the corrective blend shape. And you also have corrective blend shape for all the eye movement. Let's say looking right, here we have a corrective blend shape for it. And let's say down, another corrective blend shape. And we have even combination corrective blend shape. Let's say this is down and right. And when the character looks down and right, you have another corrective blend shape. And even combination of the three, down, right, blink. Here it is, down, right, blink. Combination of the three. And it's also for the lips. So you can have corrective blend shape for dimple, you can have corrective blend shape for smile, and you can have corrective blend shape for combination of these and funnel, etc., etc. But you can imagine how many corrective blend shape you have to correct to make it right. It's almost impossible. For example, for the funnel, you have 4 corrective blend shape for the lips. And these 4 corrective blend shapes are supposed to work with purse. And you will have like 8 corrective blend shape and 4 corrective blend shape for purse that you have to edit if the rig is broken, and 4 corrective blend shape for towards, and combination of these. So you would ended up to change all 700 corrective blend shape because you broke the rig. That's why you should not do it. This is the wrong way. And okay, now let's talk about how to do the right way again. And I'm having these joints. Actually, I'm hiding the joints and adding them to this layer and changing it. So let's say this is very similar to the target shape, and I can also add my corrective blend shape on top of it that comes from Wrap 3D, and it corrects things for me. But as long as it doesn't move the geometry too much, the rig won't break. Sorry. And so let's say this is again my my shape from Wrap 3D. This is the one which is similar to the modified shape. If I add this shape as a blend shape, something will happen that I don't want. As you can see, it adds, although it's the same shape, it adds some offset to the shape, which is undesirable. I want to having exactly this shape. And the reason for that is binding pose. If I remove the skin cluster for this face, you can see the binding pose is actually different. And in order to make a new binding pose, you have to make a new face, and let's call this one blend shape. Okay, blend. And this is my new face, and I'm going to duplicate or copy the skin of the old face to the new face. So I'm having a new binding pose. So I can select my new face, select the joint and skin. This is simply bind skin. And now I can select the old face, the new face, because they are exactly at the same, the vertices are the same position. It can be copied perfectly and copy. All right. I'm hiding the original face, and my new face now should work with the rig. As you can see, it is working. And if I remove the skin cluster, nothing happens because the binding pose is exactly the way I want it. And let's add the blend shape to it. It is exactly the same shape. Let's have a small changes on it. Let's say these macro changes are made by wrap 3, something like wrinkle, other stuff like this. Okay. If I add this as a blend shape, as you can see, only the changes from the new object is applied, and it is not going to offset the geometry, and it's still working. But in this case, we have lost all the corrective blend shapes, and in order to retrieve them, there is only one way. You have to go here for the original face, opening the shape editor, and disconnect each of these corrective blend shape, break connection, value 1, duplicate it, and for the next one, disconnect, value 1, duplicate it, etc. 700 times. And when you made all the corrective blend shape for this specific face, you add them to your new face. Obviously, you don't want to do it by hand. You can have a script for it. You can automate it. And now, when you are ready to send it to Unreal, you have to offset the joints in the blueprint, which is another lecture that I'm not going to cover, exactly the same way that you did it in Maya. So as you can see, it's a complicated and long process, but this is the right way to change a metahuman face. And the other way just breaks the rig, and we don't want to do that. I mean, if you see a YouTube video that they show that it is kind of working, you can always be sure if you put animation on it, it's not going to look right. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video is helpful to you. Bye-bye.